Welcome to this short presentation brought to you by the Herefordshire Regimental Museum. The 50th anniversary of the landings at Gallipoli took place in 1965, and three veterans of the campaign who'd served with the Herefordshire Regiment took part in a visit back to the battlefields. The original intention had been for a ship to be chartered, but this fell through. And so the Intrepid Three decided to go overland to visit the battlefields. Here we can see the three veterans proudly wearing their regimental ties, their Old Comrades lapel badges, and their medals. They were seen off from Hereford Station by the Lord Lieutenant, Colonel Maclean, who was also the honorary colonel of the regiment, and the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Carr. The three veterans' names are shown here. Before we look at the visit itself, we'll look at the history of these three individuals. We are fortunate in that Jack Davis's documents exist in the National Archives. It shows that he enlisted as a bandsman in the regiment on its formation in 1908. And there is a letter signed by his father giving authority for him to join. He was called up for full-time service on the outbreak of war in 1914, and his personal records show that he was evacuated from Suvla Bay in October with dysentery. He returned to UK in early 1916 and was discharged. His original enlistment period with the Territorial Force having expired. Pre-war enlistment periods were honoured at this time of the war. He then went on to re-enlist in the Royal Engineers and serve for the rest of the war. Tommy Fletcher was also a pre-war territorial, having enlisted in 1910. This photograph is of the Hereford Company parading in 1914 after having been mobilised, and possibly Tommy Fletcher is one of the soldiers on this picture. Harold Slaymaker, who was probably the inspiration behind the three making the tour, had served in the diplomatic corps after the war. But he enlisted in February 1915 and was discharged in March 1919, having transferred to the Royal Engineers. This photograph shows a body of troops of the Herefordshire Regiment after having been issued with their tropical uniforms. It is possible that none, one, two, or all three of our men are in this photograph. They sailed on the Euripides for Gallipoli in July 1914 and landed on the beaches at Sulva Bay on the 8th of August. But back to their 50th anniversary visit. Here we can see the three boarding the train at Hereford Station, a photograph which was published in the Birmingham Post, showing that this was quite a big event. The itinerary was quite demanding for three 70-year-old men, involving a 2,000-mile trip from Hereford to Gallipoli by a mixture of train, ship, and bus. They travelled from Hereford to Brussels, where they caught the Brussels to Jerusalem coach, which travelled once a week. In these days, there were no emails, and international telephone calls were difficult and expensive. The default method of communication was telegram. And Harold Slaymaker sent a telegram back when they would all arrive safely in Istanbul. In Istanbul, they were met by the embassy staff and also members of the Istanbul branch of the British Legion. And there was a ceremony at the Ataturk Memorial and also a reception afterwards, which was attended by many members and veterans of the Turkish army and also of the Anzacs. But as we can see there, the three members of the Herefordshire Regiment were the only former combatants from the UK who were at that reception. The party then travelled from Istanbul to the battlefields in convoy, as shown here. The second vehicle, the minibus in the top photograph, contained members of the Hampshire Regiment who were stationed in Germany at the time and had driven from Germany for the anniversary. During their visit, they had 2 private days on the battlefields of Suvla Bay. They visited Lalababa, where they had landed on the beaches. They visited the Lalababa Commonwealth War Graves Commission Cemetery and identified the headstones and the resting place of some of their comrades. They also sat on the beach at lunchtime and brewed up a pot of tea on a fire they made and had a meal of bully beef, biscuits and jam, as they had done 50 years previously. They visited other war graves on the peninsula, including the Hill 10 Commonwealth War Graves Commission Cemetery, and again, they identified the graves of many of their former comrades. After visiting the battlefields, they made their way back to Istanbul and then made the return trip to Hereford. And Harold Slaymaker sent this telegram from Istanbul: mission fully completed. Harold Slaymaker wrote an account of this visit, and he talks about taking many photographs. Unfortunately, we have not been able to locate any of these photographs. I hope that you have found this presentation of interest. Please subscribe and like the Herefordshire Regiment's Museum channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates and notifications. Also, check out the links below for latest museum news.